Hello YouTubers, you're in a new episode of The Final Cut, and today I'm going to be concluding my reviews of the Underworld series with Underworld Awakening from 2012. After this I'll go into my new movie review of Underworld Blood Wars, but real quick I'm going to give a cast and crew and plot summary and then go into my thoughts. Here we go. Kate Beckinsale returns as Celine. Stephen Ray is Dr. Jacob Lane. Michael Ealy is Detective Sebastian. Theo James is David. India Isley is Eve. Charles Dance is Thomas. 12 years pass as Celine awakes from a cryogenic sleep in a laboratory and meets the vampire David. She learns that she had been the subject of scientist Dr. Jacob Lane and that the vampire and lichen species have been practically eradicated from the earth. Celine is still connected to Michael and has visions that she believes belongs to Michael's sight. However, she discovers that it's in fact from her powerful daughter named Eve that has been raised in the laboratory. Now, Celine and David have to protect Eve against the lichens that intend to use her to create a super lichen. So yeah, briefly, that's just what Underworld Awakening is about, and it's also directed by, Marilyn and Stein. It's a longer name than that, but it's two directors that direct this. So it's not Patrick Tatopoulos or Lynn Wiseman. Two separate directors for this entry. And this is probably the shortest Underworld film. It's only like 88 minutes long, I think. Yeah. And Kate Beckinsale decided to return for this film. And to give a brief preface, this is around the time when vampires were kind of in a drought. I mean, you had the Twilight films come out. Everything was getting softer, and this was like a return to form as far as being like a violent, just brutal vampire film. That was actually rated R. And it was nice seeing Kate Beckinsale come back with a vengeance. Besides the plot, this is probably, in my opinion at least, the weakest of the Underworld films. And not to say that it's a completely bad film, it's just not as good as the other three. And it has a lot of great ideas, but I just ultimately feel like they don't get a chance to basically get paid off. There's a lot of little seeds there, but you don't get to see all those seeds come into fruition. But there is some good moments, and it was also the first Underworld to be shot in 3D. It was shot with a fusion camera system, which also shot James Cameron's Avatar and Resident Evil Afterlife. So yeah, let's start with the story. The story is a little weak, but it starts with the purge of the werewolves and vampires. The lichens and vampires are discovered by the human race, and there's this whole prologue intro video recapping the previous films, and then showing us what has happened in this world since Underworld Evolution. Michael and Celine are on the run, and they attack them, get ambushed, and Michael, you think, is dead. And it's sad because they couldn't get Scott Speedman back. He didn't come back for the film. He was filming The Vow at the time. And you could tell it wasn't him. They basically, instead of recasting, they got a stunt double and then really badly tried to CGI his face. It did not work. It's probably among the worst CGI recreations I've ever seen on film. I mean, it's not anywhere near Jeff Bridges in Tron or Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator Genisys. I mean, it was just bad. So that happens, and already things are starting to feel a little off. But again, 12 years pass, and you find out Celine's been in this lab facility, and she wakes up. So through the course of the film, she has to discover what happened, where's Michael, and then she discovers that she, in fact, was pregnant with a baby girl named Eve. And she has lichen hybrid abilities like Michael. Since it's Michael and Celine's kid, she's a hybrid. So you get to see this whole different part of the character of Celine. Not only she is back with a vengeance, but she's a mother, and that's something very different in this series, and something kind of, I guess, the natural way to progress with the series and the character. What else can you do? And that's a very interesting element to see. And not only that, Kate Beckinsale's great with action in these films, but you never really get to see too much of her dramatic side like you do in her other films. And this is a chance to kind of bring more emotion and more depth to the character of Celine. Besides the action, besides kicking ass, there's these deep character moments. Charles Dance is added, and then we have Theo James. They're okay characters. I really don't care for them too much. Charles Dance is a great actor. I loved him in Golden Child, Last Action Hero, Game of Thrones, but I think as a makeup on this, you could tell he was uncomfortable wearing the vampire teeth. It was almost like a set of dentures trying to talk. And it's like when you have those Halloween teeth and you're trying to talk and it just doesn't work. Now, he had a better time playing a vampire in Dracula Untold, but he serves well here. It's nice to get another veteran actor on here, like Bill Nye in the previous films, as the head of a coven. So that's something very different. The vampires are in short supply. And then we get to the pharmaceutical company. You have Stephen Ray's character, and then the detective that helps Kate Beckinsale. He's trying to figure out all of what's going on. And there's some good moments there. Some of the new characters are better than others, but ultimately it just moves by really fast. And in a way, it's almost like a video game. I mean, with the werewolves, there's like the super werewolf being created, and he's like Hulk-sized, and she fights him, and it's almost like a video game boss. And that's one thing I have an issue with, is that this film has some really great ideas, like really, really great ideas, and it just feels really cheap, and just like somebody who really loves video games just really simplified the plot and didn't move forward with it. It doesn't have the feeling that the first three films had. It just feels like, hey, we want to make more money, here's Kate Beckinsale back, let's just have a whole bunch of mindless action and put something out. And that's what it feels like to me. And that's just getting some of the cons out of the way. Theo James' weapon's good. And then another thing, this film is really great in 3D. I saw it in 3D when it first came out, and it's phenomenal. One of the best 3D films I've seen. And it does look odd in 2D. It has like this weird kind of computerized, kind of slow motion vibe. Something about it looks off. And part of that's because of the use of CGI. They really use a lot more CGI for the werewolves and everything than they did in Rise of the Lycans, which I thought was already too much, but this one just overblows. Like, it just uses it to the amount where it's not like the practical effects from the first two films. But it has that vibe because it's in 2D. Because Resident Evil had that vibe, and a little bit of Avatar had that weird look to it, because they were originally filmed in 3D, and now you're seeing it in 2D. So some of the stuff they try to do for gimmicks just look a little odd. I think the actress who plays her daughter does a good job. Wes Bentley has a small role as a pharmacist guy who basically, like, as a scientist guy, whatever, he's like, he lets Kate Beckinsale loose, and he's just like, he said you'd let me go if I helped you. And she's just like, I am. And she pushes him out of a window and just kills him. And that's one thing I have to say. Kate Beckinsale, Celine, kills like at least 70 people / Lycans. And it's just nuts. I mean, I love it. I love seeing her as a vampire just like bite people and just have carnage on everyone. I mean, they basically ambushed, stole the woman she loved, put her in a coma for 12 years, and imprisoned her daughter. I mean, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. But it is a change of pace for a bit. Even though I do like it, it's just a bit extreme. It's kind of different than the Celine we saw in the first two films. But then again, it's a very different Underworld. The soundtrack. I love the soundtrack. Winholder's mix of Made of Stone by Evanescence is good, and some other stuff. But yeah, Stephen Ray's character I thought played a good villain. And spoilers here. Okay. You think it's the humans. The brilliant twist that really adds a lot to this film is Stephen Ray's character and his son. His son's like a Lycan. You find out that he is a Lycan and that it wasn't the humans behind it. It was in fact the Lycans that caused the vampires to be almost extinct. That was a very, very brilliant twist. And ultimately, something that it happens and then the film just has to end, and I hate that. It's just so much unresolved stuff that almost sequel baits to the next one, where I'm like, I just wish they took an extra year to work on the script, make it like an hour and a half longer, and release a really good Underworld film. Wait for Scott Speedman to come back as Michael, or recast him, whatever. Just do something, because it's really missing that element, ultimately. Where's Michael? Celine keeps asking, and the audience is wondering the same thing. Where is Michael? But the elements in there that are there are good, but ultimately it's a very mediocre Underworld film, and a little bit of a disappointment. But it's still an entertaining film. And because of that, it doesn't make the final cut. Okay, I'm going to tell you that much. It does not make the final cut like the first three Underworlds. I probably give it a 2 out of 5, a 6 out of 10, and a C+. But, that being said, it's a very entertaining film, and if you look at it by itself, it's a good time to have some popcorn and just watch. You don't have to necessarily turn your brain off. It's just really short and enjoyable for like a quick action movie. But, besides it not having any horror elements, it doesn't have that gothic vampiric vibe the first three had. I mean, some of it's there a little bit, but it just feels like a video game movie with like a future science fiction film. In a way, it kind of felt like Highlander 2 The Quickening if it was still in present day from Highlander. Like, it just... Something about this is just off, and I really wish they got the original writers. I really wish Lynn Wiseman came back to direct another one, because I really need him. I call it the Terminator Complex. The first two Underworld films, Lynn Wiseman wrote with some other people, and then directed both of them. So you had like the creators involved in it entirely, much like James Cameron writing Terminator and Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and then directing them. The story was pretty much done. Like, the two movies pretty much told a complete story. I like Underworld Rise of the Lycans better than I like Rise of the Machines, but you start having sequels that try to basically copy the magic and formula of the first two, and they get more and more watered down to the point of it being just like, it's just made for the sake of making one, and not really advancing the story any further. And that's what Underworld feels like. This film feels like the Terminator series, where you have two really great movies, and then the more and more you make, you eventually get to the point of like, this movie. I mean, pretty much, it just gets to this. Resident Evil suffered the same thing, too. It just kept on making them, so, like, you had Resident Evil, Retribution, and then just, like, Underworld Awakening. But Kate Beckinsale really gives her all, and she holds the film entirely. I really like her in this role. She kicks ass, but she gets to play more as Selene. You get to see more of her violent nature, more of motherhood, and I like that. But ultimately, it feels like a video game at times. And besides those twists, it doesn't make the final cut, in my opinion. I enjoy watching the film, but I think it's by far, so far, I haven't seen Blood Wars yet, it's the weakest Underworld film in the series. Yeah, they really has some good ideas, but ultimately they didn't come to fruition, and I really wish they spent a year more on the script, production, got Scott Speedman back as Michael, because without him, something's missing. And I know you have Theo James there as almost like a new love interest for Selene, but I just really wish they kicked his ass out and got Michael back. It's just not the same without him. And ultimately, I feel like this was made as a cash grab, but I do appreciate Kate Beckinsale coming back for the fans. You can tell she really cares for this role. And even though it's more of an action role and different from her other dramatic ones, it's nice seeing an actress give 110% on a role like this, in a film like this, a genre film, as much as she would any other film that's a drama or a comedy or whatever. It's nice seeing an actor put that much effort into a role like this, and because of that, certain performances and characters are elevated in a genre film. But that's just not enough for it to make the final cut. And I hope to do a better job with the next one. We'll have to see. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic when reviewing Underworld Blood Wars and viewing it, and hopefully it's a step in the right direction. We'll have to see, but Kate Beckinsale's back. I just hope that they can give this series a proper conclusion that it deserves before it goes on too far. Anyway, that's my brief thoughts about Underworld Awakening. I did like the detective character and Kate Beckinsale, their stuff. Stephen Ray's character, the daughter, the motherhood bond between Kate Beckinsale and her, and the soundtrack, Rinholder's mix of Evanescence, Made of Stone. The soundtrack's really, really good on this. The 3D Fusion camera assisted filming it, probably some of the best 3D I've seen in cinema. But yeah. That's just my thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. What did you think of Underworld Awakening? What are your favorite moments? What's your favorite Underworld film? This film did not make the final cut, but I still do enjoy it. I guess it could be called a guilty pleasure, but it does have its moments. But I just ultimately feel it's undercooked and could have been so much more than it is. But it definitely is not a bad film by itself. It's just compared to the other Underworld films, it's not very good. So, on that note, feel free to check out my other reviews of the Underworld series. I reviewed Underworld, Underworld Evolution, and Rise of the Lycans. And then tune in for next week. I'm going to be reviewing Underworld Blood Wars, and I'm anxious to see it. I'm very excited. And yeah, we're going to have a Resident Evil movie and an Underworld movie in the same year. That's cool. And hopefully with the delays, they improved upon the script. We'll have to see. But yeah, maybe be better than this. We'll just have to see. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, check out my other reviews besides Underworld. Go to my Dark Knight of Steel channel. I have some Underworld music videos. And yeah, I hope you all have a happy new year out there. And for anybody who watched this whole video, thank you, okay? It means a lot. It's a long video. So, yeah. If you haven't seen Underworld Awakening, or the Underworld films, if you haven't seen any of the Underworld films, check them out. And if you've seen the first three but not this one, Lower your expectations a bit and go see this. It's gonna be a enjoyable ride. I mean, it's entertaining for what it is. It's just not gonna be as memorable as the first three. But yeah, Underworld Awakening does not make the final cut, but it's still an enjoyable film to just put on and relax. So yeah, hope you enjoy. Yeah, until next time.